Haason Reddick, all-pro defensive end for the Philadelphia Eagles, now a member of the New York Jets. We'll break down the trade that shocked everyone last week towards the weekend on another edition of Football with Faria.
It's time for Football with Faria.
You got to get the offense right, and you got to be able to be aggressive. They put up 14 against the secondary. That is driving me up a freaking wall right now.
Now here's your host, Nick Faria.
All righty, a Monday edition of Football with Faria with plenty to talk about. Haason Reddick, Pro Bowler, two-time Pro Bowler for the Philadelphia Eagles, 27 sacks in his last two seasons, traded to the New York Jets. Of all teams, the New York Jets come calling, and they give up a conditional third-round pick for the rights of Haason Reddick for the 2024 season. We have a lot to talk about here with this. And for the majority of this show, we are going to be talking about Haason Reddick, what this trade does for Philadelphia, what this trade does for the Jets, who won the trade, what could happen in the future, where both teams go from here. So for those of you jumping on for the first time, appreciate you guys so much. If you guys want to call in, the link in the YouTube description down below will do the trick. Also, like, share, subscribe. All of that is greatly appreciated. We're only going to be on for about 30 minutes today or so. It's going to be a relatively short show, mostly because my wife and I are going to the Mets game. So we have a nice little date night tonight. So a shorter show for you. Unfortunate, but we'll still be talking about the Jets. We'll still be talking about the Eagles and this dynamic trade for Haason Reddick. And the one major takeaway that I'm going to say regarding this particular move, this is as no-brainer a move as any team could possibly make. Brian Burns, if you look at Brian Burns of the Carolina Panthers and now with the New York Giants, Brian Burns is a really good pass rusher. Is he worth the second and fourth round pick that the Giants gave up? Some people, myself included, thought it was a little bit of an overpay, but a necessary overpay. It was necessary because Burns is such a lethal pass rusher, and you can only have so many lethal pass rushers in football. The Jets, I remember being on this show the day Bryce Huff signed a free agent deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, and almost everyone freaked out because the Jets let Bryce Huff walk. And not even a full month after Bryce Huff's free agent decision, not even a full month, and the Jets upgraded at Bryce Huff's position. Upgraded. We can argue about Bryce Huff's age, what it does for the organization in the long term, what it means for this organization as they try to keep some of their homegrown talent. But if the Jets are going all in, which they are for the 2024 season, they're going all in. They brought in Tyron Smith. They brought in Mike Williams. Re-signing Bryce Huff is a great move if they had done that. Trading for Haason Reddick, a Defensive Player of the Year favorite for the last 2 years, this is a no-brainer upgrade. People are going to be upset. People are going to be surprised I say that. But the biggest takeaway here above all else is the Jets, for a single month of the offseason. The offseason's not over yet. We still have 25, 26 more days until the NFL draft, and then another month and a half of free agency to go. But in a month, the Jets have solved their pass rushing depth. They have solved their second receiver option. They have solved their offensive line. And they have solved their backup quarterback. This is a no-brainer move. And anyone telling you that it isn't doesn't understand football, doesn't understand the complexities of the game, doesn't understand who the hell Haason Reddick is. I have watched Haason Reddick now for 2 seasons. He has been a part of my favorite team. I have not missed an Eagles game in my life. I have seen Haason Reddick up close. Let me tell you who's the better player between Haason Reddick now and Bryce Huff. And the answer is very clearly Haason Reddick. It's not close. It's not at all. This is as blatant an upgrade as I have ever seen. The Jets lost Bryce Huff. Everyone panicked. And in a matter of months, they upgraded from him. People will say, well, Nick, it's not really an upgrade because Bryce Huff got to the passer at a higher clip than Haason Reddick. And technically speaking, that is true. His pressure rate, Bryce Huff's pressure rate, is a lot higher than Haason Reddick's. But there's one key difference when you're judging Haason Reddick and Bryce Huff. Look at the snap count. Bryce Huff played, under 300 snaps? Under 300, round there? Haason Reddick doubled his snap count. This is a 3-down edge rusher. He can defend the run. He's also very solid in pass coverage. This is a no-brainer move. No-brainer. This is an A-plus trade. Guys, Howie Roseman doesn't get fleeced like this. Howie Roseman does not get fleeced. And Joe Douglas said to him, you're not getting anything but a 2026 draft pick. And it could become a second-round pick. But that's 3 drafts from now. That's 3 essential years away. So if the Jets are giving up a second-round pick in 3 drafts, what's going to happen then? Well, Aaron Rodgers is theoretically retired. Theoretically. The team has already competed for a championship, if not won one. This is a no-brainer move. No-brainer. Because we have a quick show today, those are my initial thoughts. I do want to get some calls in. He's been teasing me a lot so far, so I'm going to bring on Southern Jet. Southern Jet, Mr. Rich, how's everything going?
Hey, Nick, how you doing, man? Happy Easter, by the way.
Easter.
Yeah, a couple things. I'm a little baffled because it's as you know, I've been following the NFL since 1960, and I grew up as an 8-year-old watching film on Lou Saban's basement steps, watching game film in Buffalo, and the NFL is now morphed into a 2 to 4 year window league, in my opinion. It's not like it was in the old days. And this almost smells like the Jets are following that pattern here, but the Eagles aren't. Now, I think Huff is very good, but as you said, so far he could be, but has not proven to be a 3-down player. I threw many a napkin at the TV at the sports bar this year, watching running backs run around Huff as he takes his move. He goes very wide, and the Jets got burned on draw plays and quarterback draws. Not saying it won't turn out, but I definitely agree with you that they got the better of the deal right now. The Jets did, and it's going to take a while for the Eagles to figure out. My prediction is the Eagles by game 4 or 5 might be lessening Huff playing on those running downs, because I don't see how you flip immediately unless there's something I am totally missing. And are the Eagles, don't they think they have a chance to go all the way this year?
Well, there's a big difference, and I will get to the Eagles' takes in a little bit. But if you're looking at why the Eagles made this trade, it comes down to 2 things. Number one, Haason Reddick wants a new deal, and they're not giving him that deal. They have to pay Devontae Smith. They have to pay other players. And Jalen Hurts' career earnings are going to grow exponentially over the next few years. The other piece to it is they did draft Nolan Smith in the first round last season. So they were preparing for his removal beforehand. And then when you add in Huff and Brandon Graham, the pass rush is still going to be elite. It's not like the Eagles go from this dynamic group to a terrible group. They're still going to be pretty solid.
And one more thing is I want to know if you agree with this. is that the Jets. I heard a rumor that the Jets have been targeting Reddick for a while, but
Yes.
um, Chris Sims today made a comment that I thought was pretty astute, and he said that Reddick's skill set, he thought, will allow the Salah to employ the Seattle Legion of Boom scheme that he had there by having Reddick as a stand-up linebacker and having JJ and McDonald in at the same time.
Well, it's going to come down to where they position, but the Eagles do this a lot. They follow what the Giants did in 2007. And for you guys, obviously, who've seen that game,
LT.
they had Justin Tuck, they had Umanura, Strahan. They positioned those guys inside against the Patriots guards, and that gave them mismatches in 2007 and 2011. And when you do that, you need to make sure that you've got some athletic, good pass rushers on the outside
Right.
as well. So this absolutely does that for the Jets. Strategically wise, you now have the ability to do exactly what the Giants did in 2007 and what the Eagles did in 2017 when they lined up Brandon Graham. That defense was atrocious in Super Bowl 52. Graham's fumble, the forced fumble that gave the Eagles the win, came from him attacking the guard. I see something similar happening with Haason Reddick.
That was LT was with the Giants in 2007, right?
No, 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 no.
No,
It's
no, I can't remember.
that's
Because I remember.
07 was Justin Tuck, Strahan, Umanura.
Okay, because I remember at one time with Parcells and Belichick as the DC that they had actually four All-Pro linebackers.
That's
Uh,
the 90s.
and,
That's the 80s and 90s.
yeah, and the Jets now have, if I'm not mistaken, three All-Pro linebackers.
Yes. Well, it depends. Reddick is not technically a first team All Pro. He's a second team All Pro.
Well, you know
But
what I mean.
yes,
In that votes and make all
of
all
course.
pro, all NFC, all AFC. They have three of them, because everybody's talking about this dynamic front line the Jets have, but they've got three all pros at linebacker, and they've got two all pros and one all AFC, one all pro, two cornerbacks. I think uh, uh, Michael Carter got some votes as the nickel.
Yep.
Do you think the Eagles are going to use some of the money they saved on Simmons, or he doesn't fit with you guys?
Oh, I think they'll still bring in Simmons. I think they've got 3 picks in the top 60. They're gonna. I said this before. The Reddick trade is surprising, and I'll still talk about the Eagles in a little bit. But the Reddick trade is surprising. In the end, is it really that detrimental overall? Because they have the plan to replace him already. If they
And
didn't have that plan,
Howie's Howie. Yeah, Howie's Howie. He doesn't make many mistakes.
I listen. I think he got fleeced in this deal. He very
Okay.
rarely gets fleeced. I think he got fleeced in this deal. Does that mean that Howie Roseman's a terrible GM? No way in hell.
No, no.
They're gonna be just fine. They're gonna be just
I appreciate you taking the call, and as I told you before, you're really one of my favorites, and you do a great job. So best of luck to you.
appreciate it, Rich. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And again, guys, if you guys want, call in. The YouTube description down below will send you to the link. Let's bring on Johnny now. Johnny, celebration time, right?
Man,
At least for you.
he made us better, dude. I mean, that's all I can say. The consistency that guy has had within the last 4 years of double-digit sacks, like you said, dude, he fleeced. JD is, if anything, this tells you what a GM does on the, like, he doesn't make any noise. He's a silent assassin. He does moves that nobody's expecting. Doesn't really care what anybody else thinks. He's going to do whatever it takes to make his team better. And he's done that. Now at this point, right, it's going to be the players and what they put on and the coaches this upcoming season. But he's put the pieces that we need. The draft is going to literally have us going anywhere, to the point where I keep saying this, but if he was to get us a kicker with the first round pick at 10, I wouldn't even talk crap about it, because I believe in JD that much, and I know you and I both know that the fan base has been trying to, get him out of here. You know, he doesn't need to be here. And you and I have said it multiple times that if he was to have gotten booted out, he would have got a job within the next hour.
After this offseason, no matter what happens in 2024, no matter what happens, they make the playoffs, they miss the playoffs, whatever. He's probably getting another GM job.
Exactly.
What this does, honestly, and I'm going to be honest with you here. If we're talking about Joe Douglas's his impact, this separates. I can't remember who said it today, but someone did say this, and I do agree with him. This separates Joe Douglas from Robert Saleh. Joe Douglas has done the job of saying, "Here, Robert, I have given you a Super Bowl caliber roster. Go make it a Super Bowl caliber roster." Joe Douglas cannot coach the players. He's not a coach. He can't bring in the adjustments. All he can do is accumulate talent. It's hard for me to say a team accumulated more talent in this offseason than the New York Jets.
So that comes to my next question, because you literally, dude, you think like us, man. It's crazy. So I was going to ask you, with all these moves that's been done by JD, right? Let's just say that he's put all the pieces, players that we need to be successful, but they crap the freaking year again, right? Do they go ahead and get rid of JD and Salah, or at this point, is it just Salah and JD continues?
It's a hard argument to have. Listen, because I'm an Eagles fan, I am inclined to always give a pass to executives, because if you have a good process, Jeffrey Lurie talks about this all the time. You guys don't listen to him a lot. I understand it. But Jeffrey Lurie talks about process. Is the process of which you draft players, is the process of which you accumulate talent strong? If that's a yes, then there's a very strong argument to keep Joe Douglas. And there's a very strong argument to say if the expectations are not met, Douglas should be allowed to pick a new head coach, or Woody and JD should be allowed to pick a new head coach. I'm not saying that's going to happen, because the record speaks for itself. He's had as many misses as he's had hits. I continuously say he is an average GM. He's not great. He's not good. He's not bad. And he's not terrible. He is smack dab in the middle of average. That could turn if the Jets are in the playoffs and winning playoff games this year.
I just love on how much youth he's put into this team, that they're going to want the culture that's being built. Now, I know that's coaching, right? But the players that they've put in here that could be good for years and years and years to come, man, it's just not talked about as much. And then I know you got to head out, but the other thing I was going to tell you, dude, are you a Mets fan?
Oh, yeah, I'm heading to the game.
Okay, bro. I can't believe you got swept by the Brewers. I'm going to say that right now.
Listen, there's too much overreaction. I swear to God, whether it's New York or Philadelphia, everyone's just overreacting for the sake of overreacting.
Well, look. This is my take on this, right? I'm so happy that we got swept, because maybe this will be the turnaround, because we're these freaking opening game days, freaking monsters, and like the best thing,
Won the last 10 in a row. Now all of a sudden they lose and everyone's panicking.
I'd rather lose right now and then get super hot towards the end and make a crazy run. Look what when was it? Who won it? With Atlanta. Remember Atlanta? Everybody was like, "Oh, they're not going to do it."
How about this? So you say Atlanta. How about the 2021 Boston Red Sox? How about the 21-21 Boston Red Sox? They started 0-3, got swept by the 50-win Orioles. And you're telling me that the Mets at 0-3, the season's over.
Exactly.
Give me a break.
Hey, Marte, comeback player of the year, right? And I think Lindor wins the glove this year. So
appreciate it, Johnny. Appreciate the call. And again, when it comes to the Jets, I want to circle it back to football, of course. When it comes to the Jets, and I see the comment here from Alan, and I get it. And there is a point to this. Alan is not wrong. The 2024 offseason does not protect Douglas from the misses that he has had. And the misses are massive. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Joe Douglas is a horrific GM because he missed on Zach Wilson. I'm not going to say he's a horrific GM because he missed out on Alan Lazard. Because in this offseason, again, for all the bad, there's a hell of a lot of good. The 2022 draft class is terrific. Terrific. If Will McDonald produces this year, if he comes out and gets 6-7 sacks and shows that he can be a third down edge rushing fiend, the 2023 draft class looks freaking awesome. Because Joe Tippmann is already good. If Carter Warren develops, it could be even better. But if McDonald proves he's the player that the Jets drafted him, this changes the entire complexion of Joe Douglas's tenure. Does it not? He prepared for Bryce Huff's removal with Will McDonald and then upgraded with Haason Reddick. There's not many GMs that can do this, guys. There are at least two off the top of my head that could easily make a trade like this. And one of them is the deal that he was the GM that made this deal. Howie Roseman doesn't get fleeced like this. The draft pick isn't for another 3 drafts. The Jets could win the Super Bowl this year, and it doesn't matter. Who cares if they give up a second-round pick in 2026? If you get to the Super Bowl or the AFC Championship game, already that pick for Reddick is meaningless. Meaningless. Listen. Guys, you're an Eagles fan. I am sick. All right, I think we're back here, so that's good. Everyone can see me? Yes, we're good? I hate when the Wi-Fi craps out like that. Just ridiculous, especially when I'm about to leave. It's ridiculous. But go try and answer some of your questions here. Lake Jet fan, what do you think gets done next? Jets only have about $2 million in cap space. This is a great question because it goes into the next part of the Jets offseason. You need around $10 million to pay for your draft class. And the Jets have a top 10 pick, so that's going to increase the salary of that particular player. And off the top of your head, we know that there are going to be restructures done in the coming weeks for Quinnen Williams, for John Franklin Myers, for Quincy, all those different guys. These restructures are going to be made. So just because they have $2 million in cap space now doesn't mean people should worry. Cap space is meaningless when we talk about the NFL because it's so easily manipulated. It's not a concern that Jet fans should have. Let's get to Dane here on the call. Dane, how's everything going, man?
Good, man. Really good. I actually, since this deal broke, you're the one guy I really wanted to hear from because, obviously with you being in both fan bases.
Throw it in my face, right? Just throw it in my face. Thanks for the
I know. Where you been, man? It's been 3 days. No, I mean I'll get a hold of Asman whenever we trade for C.J. Stroud too. So No, as far as Roseman goes, I know when this deal broke on Friday, I was on with Gunny and Tigo, and we were just talking about how pristine his work's been and whatnot. But it goes back to that Huff deal. We catch so much flack, or JD does, from the fan base because people want to say we can afford those cap hits of Huff. Oh, he's $4 million this year. Why couldn't we have done that? Has anyone looked at that deal? Look, he's there for 3 years, but then 2027, it's like $30 million dead. I don't know what. Maybe you can help me there. I'm trying to figure out because Huff 30 million dead in 27, Hurts like 30 or 40 million dead in 2027, Lane Johnson another 20 dead in 20. Like, is he so smart that he like I see their window like slam shut? Then am I wrong?
No, because the thing with Howie Roseman, think of it this way: when the Eagles traded Carson Wentz after the 2020 season, they took on close to a $40 million cap hit for the quarterback. They were in the Super Bowl 2 years after that. If there's if there's a GM that can fixate and get past these dead caps, Howie Roseman's out there. The Bryce Huff contract, Jet fans are looking at the Bryce Huff contract and saying, well, why couldn't we do this deal? And the actual reality of it is the Jets were never going to, because the Jets defense is employing a scheme on the defensive front that requires defensive linemen to only play about 40 to 50% of the snaps. Philadelphia used to be like that, but they since transitioned when they got Haason Reddick, because you didn't need an extra pass rusher. So they see Huff paying him and giving him that kind of money and saying, we believe you can become Haason Reddick. With a little bit of extra help from Nolan Smith and Brandon Graham, we'll give you that extra money. But the Jets aren't going to change their ways. So they don't have to give that money.
And the same people are, saying we could have afforded that would have a hernia or an aneurysm or something if they were freaking out over the Kinlaw, $4 million being pushed into next year. Can you imagine $27 million being thrown on 2027 dead just so we could afford Huff these couple years? Like, it's just ridiculous. The main point I want to get at, though, is everything. Like, I've been in JD's corner the whole time. Like, there's proof. But the main reason why is because, he does have some misses. But, like, don't talk to me about his misses until you bring up every other GM during that same period. Tell me which one has hit on every single first. Because, for one, they never had as many as JD has. But, he missed on one, maybe two. But he's done all this without sacrificing future funds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he has some dead money this year. Most of his dead money is good risks at the time that just didn't pan out. I mean, Carl Lawson. Who thought that he would be cut by now? No one.
It was a great signing. When it was made, it was a great signing.
And yes, the cap will blow it up, and that dead money might be okay for Roseman, but I don't know that JD. He didn't sign the same deal.
Well, and again, the other piece to it, and again, thanks for the call, Dane. Appreciate you jumping on as always. But again, when it comes to Howie Roseman, when it comes to the Eagles in this particular trade, Eagle fans are going nuts because this trade was made in the first place, going absolutely crazy. Like I said this on Wednesday. For those of you Jet fans that weren't here, I said this on Wednesday. There are similarities, dead-on similarities between the Eagles fans and Jet fans. Eagle fans are pathologically negative. They will find a negative in a Super Bowl win. They beat the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 52. What's the negative? How could we give up 33 points? That was ridiculous. What a terrible game. Even though they won the Super Bowl. Jets fans are bipolar to the highest degree I think I've seen any fan base in football. One day it's great. The next day, oh my God, the world's ending and Joe Douglas needs to be fired. It's incredible, the similarities between the two. But with Howie Roseman and with Joe Douglas, people will get on Joe Douglas because of his horrific draft. And they say horrific draft. Taking Zach Wilson, Mekhi Becton. All these picks that they wasted with Joe Douglas. I want you guys to look at the players the Eagles drafted from 2013 to 2020. Look at the first round and tell me that this is one of the greatest GMs of all time. The best player of that draft, obviously, is Lane Johnson, who's a Hall of Famer, 100% great player. 2014. Anyone know who Marcus Smith is? Of course not. Nelson Aguilar, Derek Barnett. How about Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson? GMs make mistakes, guys, especially on draft night. And for Howie Roseman, it was a horrific decade at times in his draft record. Eagles still have a good GM. They'll be okay. Got one more call today because I am jumping off early, so we'll bring on Alan. Alan, how's everything going, man?
Hey, what's going on, Nick? How are you?
Good.
First of all, I want to thank Howie Roseman for that trade. All my in-laws are Eagle fans, so they were just pissing me off, and they were like, "I can't believe you stole our pass rusher for nothing." So
It's a fleece.
it's a fleece. I mean, I didn't like the idea of losing Huff for nothing, but I can't hate this deal. But I got to take you to task on one thing. As you know, I hate the coach. I don't hate the GM. I hate the coach. I think the coach is incompetent. That's just my opinion. Okay. But the idea that the GM is 27-56 and hired this incompetent coach, and if they don't make the playoffs this year, he keeps his job because he had a good offseason, I find mind-boggling, honestly. And I'm not going to say that you said that. There are people who are giving him a pass over the last 5 years, which I find unbelievable because this team is a joke over the last 5 years. They're 29 games under 500. And if they don't make the playoffs this year and you give this guy a 7th season, I don't get it. I'm sorry. That just boggles my mind.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
Because I think this is where, again, I'm not saying it should happen. I'm saying it opens the door for potentially to happen because you've seen it with several other executives across the National Football League. If this team goes 10-7, misses the playoffs. We've seen 10-6 teams miss the playoffs. They go 10-7, miss the postseason because Robert Saleh bungled a particular game, or Aaron Rodgers was hurt for 2 games and they weren't able to successfully implement an offense good enough to win a game. Does that change your idea about Joe Douglas, even though they finished above 500?
They do not. It does not.
Okay.
First of all, he hired this coach. Okay.
Yeah.
Just remember, he hired this coach. They have to make the playoffs. Okay. Playoffs are bust. As much as a lot of the fans are like, oh, if they're going to improve, if they don't make the playoffs, they're both gone. I don't believe in one staying and one going. They both go.
If I were given the opinion, I think you got to go. It can't be one or the other. It's got to be both. I do agree on that.
I think Douglas is better than Saleh in his job. Absolutely. Okay. I think Saleh is one of the 5 worst coaches in the league. I really believe so. I do. I think he's a tremendous defensive coordinator. I think he has absolutely no idea what he's doing as a head coach. It's just my opinion. But again, either you make the playoffs or you don't. Okay, that's my opinion. I really appreciate your show, and I'm sorry about your Mets. They're not going to have a good year this year. They're just not.
Listen, you know what? They might not. But it's too early for me to say they will or will not after 3 games against a team that's owned them for the last 2 years. I'm gonna reserve my judgment until we get out of April.
Thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Alan. All right, going through some comments, some questions. Want to make sure I get to everybody. I do want to bring this up from Red John because I see this comment here. Imagine Justin Jefferson, Quinnen, JFM, Reddick on the line, and Will McDonald at linebacker all rushing the passer. Guys, this is kind of what I'm talking about here. Haason Reddick is better than Bryce Huff in every way. The pressure rate that Haason Reddick got last year was not far off from Bryce Huff. It was not that far off, and he played almost double the amount of snaps. This was a fleece of all fleeces for the Jets. It wasn't anything else. I love Howie Roseman. I've never seen him lose a trade like this. I've never seen him lose a trade like this. I thought if you're the Eagles in that situation and Reddick wants a new deal and you're not willing to give him the long-term money, you give him a restructure that pays him a little bit more of a signing bonus that keeps him on the roster for 2024. And then you have Reddick, Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, and Brandon Graham all on the edge. That would have been an awesome pass rush. There's still going to be a good pass rush, but the number one guy is now gone. And now there's a bigger question mark surrounding the Eagles' defensive line. And yes, they'll probably be taking a defensive lineman in the first 2 rounds. But ultimately, this was a surefire pick for the Jets. It changes everything about the roster in 2024, and this propels them right now. I said this on so many shows. I said it on the Jake Asman show. I said it on JetCast, and I said it on Play Like a Jet. If you look at every position, the starters in particular, you cannot tell me the Jets don't have the better player at almost every position against most teams in the AFC. They are better talent-wise right now than the Buffalo Bills. They are better talent-wise than the Miami Dolphins. I think the only team that has them on talent are the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the only team that I look at and say they probably still have more talent. And that centers around the head coach. Andy Reid against Robert Saleh, it's no contest. And I don't think Robert is a bottom 5 coach like Allen said. I think he's, again, somewhere around average, maybe even a little below average. I can't look at people like Dennis Allen having head coaching jobs and saying, oh, yeah, Robert Saleh is not better than him. Let's be fair about that. Dennis Allen's a horrific head coach. Horrific. But now the pressure's on Robert Saleh. And this parting moment for you guys here is this. Joe Douglas has done his job. He has done his job this offseason. Make the Jets better. Improve the Jets everywhere. Joe Douglas has done that. Now it's up to Robert Saleh to sit here and say, okay, I've got my team. Now it's time to put up or shut up. No more excuses. You can't say, oh, we lost Aaron Rodgers, so our season's over. You have a backup quarterback now. You better make sure that the coaches you have are ready to go. Plain and simple. This is as surefire a trade for the Jets as you have ever seen. And it puts the spotlight immediately on Robert Saleh. Win or get out. That's the party message today. For those of you guys jumping on for the first time, appreciate you guys so much. We're going to be back on Wednesday to talk more about this Haason Reddick trade when I am not running out the door for a Mets game. So appreciate all you guys jumping on. Appreciate all the callers as well. We'll be back on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Again, appreciate all you guys jumping on. I will see you all on Wednesday. Have a great night.